There can be a big difference between something that's just okay and something that's best in class. Hey, and let's be frank. Sometimes only the best will do. Welcome to Mornings with Bishop Robert. Thanks for joining me, the best spot on the internet for coffee with a cleric. You know, my goal is to introduce people to the Jesus they never knew, and then help them get to know him and his word personally and better. If our time together today speaks to your heart, let me invite you to like, subscribe, and also share this with a friend. Quality and preference comparisons are just a fact of life. Sometimes the differences are subtle. At other times they're stark. You might have guessed it, I'm a bit of a coffee snob. I love and really appreciate the nuances of flavor and strength, the crema of a well-drawn espresso, the aroma of a freshly brewed cup. My wife makes no such distinctions. She'll drink anything that's hot and black. Hey, as I've flown across the world, as a C-suite executive, the companies I've worked for typically book me in the front cabin. But I've also flown to Africa on ministry, while seated in the very, very back of the plane, next to the toilet. And the differences between those two flights is dramatic. Sometimes that which is promised as best just isn't. Hey, back to the coffee example. There are plenty of people who think that one particular vendor is the greatest. Maybe it's Dunkin' Donuts or Starbucks or Peet's Coffee or maybe some other chain. But people who love coffee will disagree. I mean, Starbucks sells like crazy in California, but it couldn't keep its stores open in Israel. Israelis said they burned their coffee and they ruined it. But Israelis love Arabic coffee, which is much, much stronger. Well, when you're dealing with flights and coffees and cars and clothings, the distinctions between good, better, and best may have very little actual difference. Comfort and class are nice, but not essential. But when you're dealing with love, especially a love that will impact your eternity, well, you'd better be certain to make the right choice. You only want the best. Because not all loves are created equal. And some are deliberately intended to trap you. You know, not long ago, I read a report about something called the lover boy method. It's used by human traffickers to lure and trap victims they intend to turn into prostitutes. One former trafficker even talked about how he'd intentionally look for his victims in churches, because virgin girls bring a higher price. So he would dress nicely and he'd act sweet. He had memorized 5 Bible verses so he could quote them at the proper time as a trick to gain acceptance. And after he had selected his target, he began his lover boy routine. He said, I knew if I told them I loved them 5 times and gave them a rose, they'd be mine. Well, that love is neither good, better, nor best. It's a lie. It's a trap. And that love, if you want to call it that, will fail. People who end up in that trap are scarred for the rest of their lives, which isn't necessarily all that long for many of them. But when you're dealing with love, especially a love that'll impact your eternity, you'd better be certain to make the right choice. Weigh the evidence. Check the references, as it were. It's definitely one of those cases where only the best will do. Today's verse says, I will never fail you. I will never abandon you. God's love is offered as a faithful promise. He offers an eternity of blessing to folk like me and you, who've really got no right to make any claim on it. I mean, it's a Cinderella story, but on steroids. I mean, we're filthy, poor, wretched. We literally have nothing to offer into the bargain except our mess. It's ourselves, our love and companionship that the King desires. So he offers total forgiveness, absolute pardon, full reconciliation, and then abundant blessings poured on us. He makes us promises we could never make ourselves. And he opens the door to his kingdom and his home. The images he uses to describe what he promises are staggering to consider. He recreates us as kings and priests. He loves us as a husband loves his bride, cares for us as a father cares for his children. He even adopts us into his family and makes us his heirs. And his love never fails. And because it does not, it's better than anything. Better than everything that will fail. So his unfailing love is better than life itself. Hey, one day our health will fail, but his love never fails. One day our riches, whether they're large or small, won't be sufficient to give us what we need, but his love never fails. One day every relationship on earth will end, but not his, because his love never fails. Funny thing about one day is coming for all of us. We just don't know when. So the time to make our decision about his unfailing love is today. Now. It's not a comparison between good, better, and best. It's a choice between anguish and joy, between rejection and acceptance. You see, sometimes that which is promised as best just isn't. But his unfailing love is better than life itself. It truly is the best. Well, that's all the time we've got for this morning. But before you go, let me ask you to help me introduce Jesus to the people who never knew him. And then help them get to know him and his word personally and better. Would you please like this video? It really will help more people see it. Then click follow or subscribe so you and I can get together every day. If you click the link in the description, you can download a free copy of my book, Count to One. Hey, one more thing. Share this video with a friend, would you? Because as you do, you're part of the team touching hearts all over the world with the love of Jesus. Thank you for helping.